Hey everyone, so in this video I'm going to be showing and highlighting some real insider trading that you can spot using order flow. So if we look at this chart right here, so this is the S&P 500. This was yesterday. Now I'm sure most people, well, yesterday at the time of this recording, today is March 24th. This was Monday, March 23rd. We had this massive push-up. So this push-up was down to President Trump announcing that he won't be striking Iran's energy infrastructure. So if we look on financial juice right here, you can see at 11:05, it's big red. This was a major kind of, breaking story, I guess you can call it. And it was at 11:05 UK time. This is, of course, because I'm here in the UK. And it caused a massive push up, right? Trump on Iran: I have instructed the Department of War to postpone any and all military strikes against Iranian power plants and energy infrastructure for a 5-day period, subject to the success of ongoing meetings. So what this is basically saying is, obviously, it sounds like de-escalation of the war. Okay, so naturally things are going to go up, right? Things are sounding positive in terms of de-escalation. So 11:05 was when it came out, and you can see 11:05 at the bottom there, and we had this gigantic push up on the S&P 500, and obviously so many other assets were also affected, right? And we're talking here a push up of, call it 3.7%. That's a lot, right? In a couple of minutes is a huge move. But someone profited massively from this. Someone out there profited massively because they knew it was about to happen. They knew the information was about to get announced, and they profited hugely. And this is where order flow becomes so important. I want you to look 15 minutes before, 10:50 a.m. UK time. This is pre-market. This is before US Open, right? So volume is generally relatively low. Now this is the delta footprint, so it's only showing you the difference between the buyers and sellers. But if I switch it over to the buy and sell, we can see the exact volume, right? And if I also add in the table, we're going to add buy volume. I'm just going to get rid of all the other stuff. So we'll add buy volume to the bottom here. Okay, so this is all the buy volume in that candle. And if we just look at the general buy volume, right, for, the last kind of, 10, 20 minutes of price action at that time, buy volume 130, 197, 191, 300, 350, 480, small numbers, right? The biggest one being 480 is already sticking out a bit like a sore thumb. You're anywhere really from 200, I would say 100 to 500 being kind of the upper limit, right, of the buy volume. And that's quite normal for the S&P 500, right? That is completely normal around that time. But then all of a sudden, 15 minutes before, mind you, the buy volume in this candle is 3,260. So I would say, on average, an extra 3,000 contracts, right? Because 260 would be about average, right? Someone has placed about 3,000 contracts all at one, aggressively bought. That's why the market gapped up so quickly, right? And it cleared all these levels on the sell limits, right? It happened instantaneously. It was one big order placed in one go. So it wasn't even a collective of a bunch of people, just a lot of people buying at the same time. It was one individual, one entity, whether it's an institution, a single person, who knows, right? But one individual entity placed a large order of my estimation of around 3,000 contracts, right? And you can see the volume spiked a little bit on this candle as well, a little bit more. This could be normal, right? I would say this is still within range of normality. Same with that, right? But this is sticking out like a sore thumb, okay? So they would have placed the order somewhere, maybe lower down at the beginning of the candle, maybe around here. But obviously they cleared so many levels, that means their average price, if you work it out, their average price would probably be more around the middle. So that's kind of, that black line there would be their average price, right? And that's where they got filled, essentially, on average, okay? Because they would have got a bunch of orders, a bunch of sell limits would have been taken out, from the bottom, and they cleared all these levels, essentially. That's why the market gapped up so much, right? So the average price, if you calculate, would probably be around the middle, okay? And then, you know, not much happens. Whoops, sorry about that. Not much happens, you know, we just kind of go sideways, 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 and then boom, Trump announces it, and naturally, you know, the market rallies up 3.7%. So this person's trade, you know, and where did they get out? Well, we can kind of estimate where they got out, right? We're probably, you know, if we see a really obvious spike in volume somewhere near the highs, you can kind of probably estimate where they got out. Maybe they drip fed out. Hard to kind of know exactly where their exit is, to be honest. But let's just say hypothetically, we'll give them the benefit of the doubt. They didn't get a perfect exit, right? But let's just say they kind of got out somewhere in the middle of this kind of sideways movement, because they kind of went sideways for a bit, right? They somehow got out in the middle somewhere. Call it 200 points, right, on the S&P 500 at 3,000 contracts. So we know they entered with around 3,000 E-mini contracts, right? 3K is their position size. And they gained 200 points, okay? So we're going to do a bit of math here to kind of figure out what their profit is. One standard contract, so one E-mini contract, at one point is $50, right? $50. So they did 3,000, okay, contracts. At one point would be 3,000 times 50. So 1 point is already 150K. Now they did 200 points. So times that by 200, and we have $30 million in a matter of minutes. This person, whoever this person is, made I would estimate around $30 million, give or take. I mean, it doesn't really matter whether it's 28, 32, around that number, in a matter of minutes, okay? And that's clear as day insider trading, right? Clear as day insider trading. It's not even debatable. I mean, it's so obvious it's insider trading, all right? But what is interesting about it is it's so brazen now. You know, we had this also on Friday. We had a very similar, I believe it was Friday. We had a very, very similar situation where someone shorted massively. I can't remember exactly where it was. I believe it was around here. Yes. Someone aggressively shorted, not as big of a size, just a few minutes before news came out. Very interesting news. I can't remember exactly where it was, but either way, the footprint is now, the data unfortunately is already gone for that, so we can't go over it again. But this data is still here on TradingView, so we can look into it. But essentially, that is insider trading, right? And you can see it happen just before the news was announced, okay? Now, what's the point of this video? Well, look, is there going to be justice for, is this person going to be investigated? Obviously not, right? There's never going to be any justice. That's just the reality of trading. There is insider trading constantly happening. That is, again, a reality of trading. People who know or have been tipped off about certain things. I'm not going to speculate who this person was. That's not for me to speculate. But, you know, people can make ideas and decisions of who this person could have been. That's entirely up to, you know, people as a whole. But there absolutely was insider trading. Someone made, in my estimation, around 30 million from the knowledge or from the information that was about to be released. But during this, I guess my point here is, in this video, it's going to be a shorter one, but my point here is during times, what we're seeing in the markets is kind of like a weird shift. I've been in this industry for over 15 years. Insider trading is nothing new. It's been there before I ever got into the industry, and it's going to be there for the foreseeable future, right? But 15 years ago when I first started, and bear in mind, I've always traded order flow, right? I've always traded order flow. So I could always see this kind of data. 15 years ago, insider trading happened, but it was done a lot more subtly, right? People would build up orders maybe a day or two before an event, you know? So it was very hard to track. It wasn't done 15 minutes before someone dumped 3,000 or bought 3,000 contracts and then boom. That is, in my opinion, someone who's not really a professional trader, so to speak. In my opinion, that is someone who feels that they are untouchable and knows that nothing's actually ever going to happen to them. No one's going to investigate them because of who they are, maybe. That also feels like someone who doesn't fully get market dynamics, because entering 3,000 contracts aggressively on the ES in pre-market is flagging everyone's red flags, right? Any professional trader is going to be like, whoa, what's going on there? That's very suspicious, because people don't do that, right? You've clearly got money, you've got a lot of size, and you're entering aggressively pre-market at a random time. That's huge red flags, right, for any professional trader. It strikes me that this isn't a professional. So what I'm trying to say is I don't think this is, you know, some big institution with professional traders who've traded, because most professional traders, if they're going to do insider trading, they'll enter passively. They'll enter through the book, through, you know, and you would see a lot of consolidation happen before, you know, the massive move, because they've just built up a massive order. They've put a big iceberg, you know, bunch of, you know, buy limits, right? If they wanted to buy. Bunch of buy limit orders, and every time it goes in, people are selling into that buy limit and they're building up a big order. They'll do it kind of very subtly. They wouldn't just make it so obvious that everyone could see it on the footprint and be like, whoa, what the hell was that? So this almost looks like a bit of inexperience, whoever this person was, right? In my opinion, I feel like they're not really an experienced trader. They got some information, they went in hard, they full ported essentially, and well, they obviously made a lot of money, but they're also probably not very scared of ever getting caught or any kind of investigation or anything like that happening. That is personally my way, my view of it, just because it's done so obvious and so blatant, right? The reason most institutions do it subtly is because, well, A, they don't want other people recognizing that someone is building up a big order. They also don't want, if they ever get investigated, it's very hard to kind of, you know, explain that when people say, well, why did you just buy 3,000 contracts there? Why? What was it about that area? Why did you do that? You know, 15 minutes before, it's too suspicious, right? Very hard to kind of, you know, talk your way out of that when the evidence is pretty clear, right? Especially if you have some kind of insider knowledge, or come on, you know, you're gonna, it's too obvious, right? So, you know, it is interesting to look at, but I guess at this point in time, during, you know, this war with Iran and whatnot and everything that's going on, I've noticed in the market, people there's a lot of insider trading happening on small levels, big levels like this, on big scales, and they're very brazen about it. They're not hiding it anymore. So that kind of opens up an opportunity for us traders. You know, if you happen to be on the charts and you see something that just clearly makes no sense at all, something that sticks out like a sore thumb, at this point in time, I wouldn't. Hey, I couldn't knock you if you decide, look, I'm buying as well. I'm going to buy, give it 15, 20, 30 minutes, we'll see what happens, right? Because I've seen it happen twice now in 2 days. I saw it on Friday, and I've seen it yesterday on Monday. So keep your eyes on the chart. If you see something that really sticks out like a sore thumb, like that, and it's done aggressively, I think jump on that position, in my personal opinion. Yes, you know, you can have a tight stop, keep it under there, you know, and give it 30 minutes, an hour tops. If nothing happens, all right, fine. Maybe it was just random, right? But I have a very good feeling that you'll probably make the best trade of your life next time you see something like this occur in the market. So keep your eyes peeled. Yeah, keep your eyes peeled if you see that don't be afraid to jump in. That would be my opinion right now, because normally I would never give that as a strategy or as a way, but I've seen it happen twice in 2 days now, right? Twice in 2 days, and I can tell you from my experience that is not normal, right? That doesn't happen very often, okay? Especially when it's so obvious like that. There's someone in the market who's getting good information, and they don't give a shit, essentially. They don't care. They're doing it out in the open. If you see that person do it again, well, they clearly know something. Do you know what I mean? They clearly have knowledge beforehand, and they're capitalizing on it. Might be worth trying to capitalize on it too, whilst, you know, all this mayhem is happening in the world. So yeah, but that's literally all I want to do. I just wanted to do a little video pointing that out, because it's very rare you see something so obvious and so clear cut, and I thought that's super interesting. But if you guys check out some other videos if you do want to learn how to actually trade order flow properly, because this is not really a, you know, strategy. You don't really want to chase high volume when you're trading order flow. This is a very exceptional example. But yeah, do check out some other videos. I've been a professional trader, like I said, for institutional trader for over 15 years. I do know my stuff when it comes to the footprint, things like that. So definitely, if that's something you're interested in learning, it's all free of charge. It's all available on my YouTube. Join my lives. I trade live every single day, Monday to Friday, New York Open on this channel. Pop by. I'm sure you'll love it. But apart from that, guys, thank you all for watching. I'll see you again very soon. Take care for now. Bye-bye.